Hey folks, thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. The state of Oregon is going to be releasing $157 million, I believe it is, from the Capital Projects Fund. So the application window is open. Be right back with more details. Thanks for joining me. Again, Rick Husey with Broadband Deployment News. So this is a press release back from September. So back in September, it was announced that, yes, $156.7 million that Oregon would be getting this to provide high-speed internet projects in Oregon under the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Capital Project Fund, which the state estimates will connect approximately 17,195 homes. That's a little over $9,200 per location. And the application window is now open, so I wanted to just report on that and give you some details. So you see here, this is on the Business of Oregon site, and this is the Broadband Deployment Program. That's what they call it. And you see here, ARPA and CPF, that's Capital Projects Fund. BD application cycle is now open, and so you can start submitting to that if you're in Oregon and you want to apply for funds in an area. And I'm going to go through some of the details in their program book here. So you see applications are due by April 25th, 2024, 5 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. You can ask questions right here. There's also an FAQ down here. Who's eligible? So pretty much anybody, of course, private companies, for-profit, non-profit, municipalities, electric co-ops, electric utilities and co-ops, municipals, non-profits, etc. Partnerships between eligible applicants. So that could be a public-private partnership. Let's see. It talks about eligible projects. I'm going to look at some of this in the actual handbook. Again, timeline. You see that you've got deadline April 25th, and it tells you a little bit about some of the other activities that are going to go on with the. We have all dates current as of 3/28, so that's today. Challenge process starting in July. And application evaluation and scoring anticipated mid to late August. They're going to review it in September. Intent to award announcement in October. So it's going to be happening pretty quickly here. Again, this is ARPA funds. That's the American Rescue Plan Act, and this is the Capital Projects Fund. So that's what was awarded back in September and what they are now going to be awarding to subgrantees. So I was going to look at this Broadband Deployment Program Handbook and guidelines, and just talk about some of the items in here that I thought were interesting or of note, especially obviously if you're an internet service provider in Oregon and are wanting to apply for these funds. So scroll down here to what I thought was interesting. I linked to that article and to this handbook and to the site, this article here, the BDP site, and then this handbook right here. So you can check that out as well. But I'll scroll through here to what I thought was interesting. So you see here, these particular definitions, underserved, unserved, and served, are the same for BEAD. So you've got underserved, meaning anything that's less than 25 by 3. You've got that's underserved. Anything that's, unserved is the same. So unserved is less than anything 25 by 3. Underserved would be between 25 by 3 and less than 100 by 20. And then served location is anything that's over 100 by 20, which is interesting because there's a 100 meg, 100 by 100 requirement in this. So you'll have people that are needing to require or being required to deploy 100 by 100 at a minimum in this. And there is, you can see as we go through this, there's a weight on unserved locations. So you're really not supposed to, in this grant process, be serving or put in projects that are for underserved locations unless they happen to be locations where you're going through them to get to an unserved location, if that makes sense. We'll look at that. Eligible applicants, again, we saw that. That's pretty much any kind of entity that would normally deploy broadband. Affordable Connectivity Program, obviously, that is at this point on its last legs, and it doesn't look like it's going to be renewed. There may be some program, if it is renewed, then it would be, I assume, considered, again, the Affordable Connectivity Program, or there could be a successor program. What's interesting here is it doesn't mention successor programs. So it says, to be eligible, all wired and wireless providers must participate in the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. And again, that's ending in May. There will be some awards some money, some subsidies that are provided to cable operators and fiber operators that are other internet service providers that are providing the ACP in April. Those will be partial subsidies because the money is running out in April, and there'll be nothing in May unless something happens, which is not expected. And this doesn't mention, as I say, any successor plan. So it just says you have to agree to participate in the ACP. FCC, Broadband Service Location Fabric. So the department will utilize the FCC's fabric to advertise eligible locations, publicly display applicants' proposed service locations, monitor project completion, and submit reports to the U.S. Treasury. So they're leaning into, as they should, the FCC broadband map and the fabric that undergirds that map as the source of what we believe to be the best truth as far as where broadband is available, or should be, where broadband should be available, where it is available, and what speeds, for example. Awardees will be required to submit reports to the department using Fabric ID numbers and street addresses. So that would be similar to what they would do if it's a current internet service provider, where they have to upload their coverage area into the broadband data collection system. They are familiar with the location IDs. That should not be an issue. Compliance with existing laws, those kinds of things. Eligible projects. The sole eligible activity for this program's funds is the construction and deployment of broadband infrastructure projects that offer reliable minimum 100 by 100, so symmetrical and 100 meg service to locations lacking at least 100 by 20 megs reliable service. Wired or wireless solutions are both eligible so long as their deployed service meets or exceeds the standards set forth in the end user speed requirements and service quality requirements sections below. So the way I read this, and I think it's confirmed further down, is if somebody has 100 by 20 already, then they're considered served, basically. So eligible projects are those that will primarily construct and deploy broadband infrastructure. Projects that solely fund customer premise equipment, such as satellite receivers, are not eligible. So they couldn't try to subsidize satellite, for example, as part of this project. Overbuild eligibility restrictions, and this is interesting. So projects that traverse locations served by 100 by 20 service, and the number of served locations passed by the project's service route is greater than 20% of the project's total proposed eligible locations, will be considered an ineligible overbuild project. So they're not supposed to, if an area already has 100 by 20, they're not supposed to overbuild that. And that would be if that area is greater than 20% of those number of locations. So they want to have the providers really seek out those areas that are less than 100 by 20. They can still, 100 by 20 still can be considered a buildable area. If somebody's, if somebody's less than 100 by 20, that is still something that can be built too. However, the point scoring is a little bit different. So they're trying to emphasize the unserved there. We'll see that. Line extension eligibility requirements. Grant funds may be used to cover costs to extend last mile service to hard to reach locations. So normally you would not, in here it says specifically, this is not to be funding drops to customer homes. However, this to me sounds like it would be the long driveway problem where you've got, it says here, service to hard to reach locations, not limited to cost for trenching, conduit splicing, network interface devices, installation turn-up. That may be what that is, because obviously, all of the funds are going towards locations that are not served, and many of them could be hard to reach. But I think this is maybe talking about, since it says line extension, kind of the long driveway problem. And it actually says here, awardees may use program funds to pay for all such costs or pay a portion of such costs customarily paid for by customers in hard-to-reach locations. So a lot of times when there is that long driveway problem, the operator, whoever it is in the area, will say, yeah, we can get service for you, but it'll be $10,000 or $30,000 to extend that to your area. And that, I believe, is what that's talking about. Middle mile eligibility requirements. Grant funds may be used to cover middle mile infrastructure costs only if necessary for the deployment of eligible last mile locations. So you can't take this and just decide you're going to use these funds for middle mile infrastructure. It's got to be as part of the need to deploy the last mile service. End user speed requirements, again, 100 by 100 symmetrical at all locations. You see that here. Network capacity, service must remain available at or near minimum speeds to all proposed locations, regardless of peak network load time. So they're saying it doesn't matter, during the day, if it's peak time, you still need to be able to provide that kind of service. Latency, this is a little bit lower than BEAD, not too much, but latency less than 100 milliseconds. BEAD is 120. Data caps and throttling. Unthrottled full-speed data usage allowances of at least 1 terabyte per month for all subscription plans. That's a little crazy. And that's because not everybody needs to have a gig plan, for example. 100 by 100 may be more than enough for people, and with 100 by 100, they can transfer a whole lot of data in a month. So what you find happening, and this has been proved out by reports, for example, from OpenVault, if you have customers on various plans and you don't have any kind of usage difference between your low-level plans and your gig plan, for example, or your 10 gig plan or whatever, then what happens is, as you would expect, is people get the lowest price plan they can. And again, if that meets their needs, if they can get on 100 by 100 and they want to download 4K movies, several 4K movies a day on multiple devices, they're going to use a lot of bandwidth versus, let's say, somebody who might have a gig connection and they're not quite as active as that. So what tends to happen is you can have lots of very high usage customers using the low plan. So it really makes a lot more sense for a broadband provider to say, listen, we're going to have these particular tiers, and in some tiers you're going to get more usage than others because their costs vary based on that, and the price of the plan based on that. So if they have 100 by 100 at, let's say, $30 a month, and they've got a gig plan at $70 a month, they could have a bunch of people on the $30 per month plan using a lot more bandwidth than the people that are on the $70 per month plan, because they're doing just fine with 100 by 100. So again, that to me is a little crazy. It should not say on every subscription plan, I don't think. Certainly that low-cost plan, because you can have a lot of people that could be costing you a lot of money, and that really impacts your ROI and whether or not you're going to be able to stay in business. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Project priorities, here's the key priorities. Extra points will be given to applicants who will serve unserved locations. So again, this would be less than 25 by 3. 10 points per location in that case, 5 points if it's an underserved location. So if it's between 25 by 3 and 100 by 20, they get 5 points for that. Extra points will be given for projects that address affordability. Applicants whose 100 by 100 plan costs consumers $50 will get an additional 2 points. If it's 100 by 100 and it's $30, they'll get an additional 5 points per proposed location. But again, having a 100 by 100 plan that can do up to 1 terabyte of usage can be a risk. And any of these prices, let's see, applicants must state or covenant that these prices will remain in effect for 5 years after the project closeout date. That's another one that to me is really tricky because we've seen what's happened in the last couple of years with inflation. So these operators are starting out with where prices are today, and hopefully this will work out where prices have gone up a lot. There's still inflation. People forget that. So you see the inflation rate coming down, but what you forget is that all the increases in prices for the most part are still there. Some things have come down in price, but you've got things that once you've got that inflation up, then as the rate starts to come down, there's still inflation. Okay, it's just not inflating as quickly. So it's very possible that things 5 years from now will not be that different, since we did have such a big spike in inflation. But we saw what's happened in the last few years. So if somebody is signing up and saying, I'm not going to change my pricing for 5 years, to me that's a little bit of overreach there. That is the state of Oregon really trying to not just set prices, I guess, but also determining that operators cannot raise that price. I understand kind of the reasoning behind it. You don't want an operator to come in and say, yeah, we'll do $30 per month for that, and we'll get our 5 points. And then, 3 months later, they go ahead and jack up the price. I understand that. So I think there's probably something that would make more sense that would be under 5 years. I would say a year. I don't think you'd want to go much longer than that, or put something in here about inflation, that they should be able to raise the rates based on the rate of inflation, something like that. Bonus score, broadband networks owned, operated by, affiliated with, or in otherwise formal partnerships with local governments, nonprofits, and cooperatives. So again, if you've got a electric co-op or a municipality, a telephone cooperative, or if you are partnering with one of those, then you can get a bonus score there. Grant information, the max grant award is $20 million per applicant. There's a lot about the process in here. Application contents that you'd want to check out. What else? Confidentiality, SAM enrollment, blah, blah. Let's see, proposing to serve ineligible locations. So if an applicant has data demonstrating the eligibility map is incorrect, the applicant may include otherwise ineligible locations in their proposed project, so long as the applicant provides data capable of adequately demonstrating that the locations in question have service levels beneath the eligibility threshold. So you can, if you do your own research and can document it and back it up, you can actually submit for locations that show that they are served, but maybe really are not. Let's see, it talks about the challenge process in here, challenge outcomes, review criteria and scoring. We talked a little bit about that. There's more detail in here for that. And if you enjoy math, there's math in here as well. For example, right here, that's a fun one right there. You can do that. See, contract administration, grant agreement. I'm just going to scroll through this. There are a few other things I want to talk about. Oh yeah, this was interesting. So speed test requirements. The department reserves the right to request verified speed tests on all portions of an awardee's, applicants, or challengers' pre-existing or grant-funded network. Upon the department's request, a verified speed test must be conducted between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. and be distributed throughout the locations in question. So it says they reserve the right to do that. So I suspect that would be if there were some question or concern about speeds. And it mentions here an existing network. So maybe if they get wind of the fact that there's an operator out there that's claiming that they provide a particular speed, but customers are saying they don't, that might be a reason that they might request that, those kinds of things. I doubt they'd request that for everybody. Appendix B, previously funded locations, federally and state funded locations with existing agreements to build service to or are currently served with access to internet speeds at less than 100 by 20 are eligible to submit applications through BDP. However, federally or state-funded locations with service obligations at or over 100 by 20 will not be considered for the program. So again, you want to award those areas that have already got funding, federal funding. And that's pretty much it. So again, I linked to all of those things in the description of this video, so you can check that out. So again, $157 million approximately. That's a lot of money going. And again, they had originally listed, 15,000 plus locations, I think $9,200 or so per location that it was going to cost. If that remains the case, I don't know. I mean, they've had all this time since they first submitted this to the Treasury Department as to, the number of locations that they were going to do this with. It's been a while. That was September of last year. When the new FCC map comes out, that may change, and who knows? I don't know if that'll be more locations or fewer. But anyway, they're going to be getting money and now going through the process of determining who the subgrantees will be that will do that work. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified when I'm live. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.